Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Selden. I'm president of the Montessori Foundation, and I'm here with my colleague Clint Lausch from Ames, which is one of the most interesting school marketing companies I've ever met. And this is our weekly webcast on Tuesdays. We also have one on Thursdays called Finding the Perfect Match, which is all about recruiting, retaining your ideal enrollment, building community, reducing attrition, all the good things having to do with admissions, marketing, advertising, community building, setting tuition, all those good things. Clint, this week I believe that you want to share some marketing messaging frameworks that you think really work.
Yeah, well, at this time of year, a lot of schools that are, maybe using the software or, are utilizing us for campaign building, having a lot of conversations with schools around those admission focused campaigns. We need open house registrants. We want to run more ads. We need more inquiries, whatever it might be. This is big campaign time. And there's a lot of elements that go into the campaign, from the ads that you run to the pages that you're sending people onto your website or landing pages and emails that you're sending. Um, and at the core of all of that, I feel like one of the, I guess, overlooked aspects of the campaign is the messaging. And I'll give you an example. I get a lot of schools that approach me and say, we want to run an open house, and let's just run an ad that says, hey, we've got an open house. Come to our open house on October, whatever. And that will probably attract some people, but that doesn't help you from the perspective of attracting those ideal families that, like our webcast suggests, that are the perfect fit. And that's where your messaging comes in. Messaging is really the foundation, the backbone of everything regarding marketing. The messaging that goes on the website, the messaging that goes in your ads, the messaging that goes in your emails, the messaging that goes everywhere. That if you have that foundation done, it really does help attract the right families. And on the flip side, and sometimes we don't think about this, is repel those where you may not be a good fit, which sometimes is just as important. And so I wanted to share just a few marketing frameworks that are messaging frameworks, I should say, that are, what was the phrase? The old tried and true, they're proven, you really can't go wrong if you use these frameworks, and then if you just, put in your school specific content. But there's also that's an important point, is sitting down and coming up with what's the messaging related to our school that's going to make us different than the school down the street compared to other Montessori schools, other private schools, public versus private, right? What is that messaging that is going to resonate and differentiate and really attract those families? So messaging is at the core, and I wanted to share some frameworks that, if a school came to me today and said, we need to run a campaign, let's start writing some ads, this is the process that I would go through for writing ads, for writing messaging on the website. So, we're going to go through it, and, there's some exercises that go along with this. And so, I think that'll be a good start for us. And Tim, I know this is something we've talked a lot about, and you've shared some really great messaging that you've used in the past, for advertising and other types of campaigns. Do you have, any thoughts on your end in regards to messaging, or how you approach messaging for a school? A school hires you, helping with your messaging. What are your processes or thoughts around it? How do you approach it?
Well, Clint, I can't let you say something so controversial without at least raising the issue. You were saying that the right messaging framework not only draws the right families in, but it causes the wrong families to go away. And I can hear Maria Montessori spinning in her grave, right? Montessori for every child. Every child needs Montessori. Lisa, Lauren, whether you're running a Montessori school or a monastery school or whatever kind of school, we all want every single family we can get. And I think we ought to just take a moment and before we get into the frameworks and say, do we really want a framework that would cause some people to run the other way? I know my answer is yes, 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 yes. We absolutely do not want to waste our time with the wrong people. But I know that sounds very elitist and odd because so many of us worry about how will we meet our enrollment target? We have enough trouble filling the spaces that are open. And why would we ever want to cause anyone to think maybe this isn't the right school for me? And Lauren and Lisa, let me just throw this at you before I know the answer from my end. I know what Clint's going to say. What do you think? Do you want every single call to every single person to come to your campus?
No.
Right.
It's like you said, we have finite resources and time. I am an office of one, so I do all of the enrollment and re-enrollment for the families that are here. And then we have a specific model of students that we can support. So we can't have and help everybody. And then there's a capacity thing. But of course, like you said, we of course want to fill those spots too. But we want to have really quality, not just quantity.
There you go. Lisa, anything you want to add?
We want to make sure that we have families that see our campus and are looking for what we provide and are very clear on what we're offering and what we do. So we're on the same page. Because while
Mhm.
Montessori can reach every child, the family has to be on board as well for it to work well.
Absolutely. So, Clint, I know that you come from a background of Christian schools and independent schools and all kinds of schools, big and small. Really, really have come to deeply respect what you bring to the table. That's why I asked if you wanted to do this webinar series together. And it's been a great year now. It's been a year.
Wow.
It has been a year since we
I
started.
didn't realize that.
We started October last year. Um, And I just want to say what I've found from you, Clint, is two things. One, you need help because obviously what you're selling is an agency and support. It's great software, but the real value you bring to the table is you and what you know. And we need more of you. So I think all of us who are friends and clients of what you do through Ames uh, want you to succeed and agree with the gist that we're glad you're here and you're doing a lot of nice things for people that need help,
I
including offering
appreciate it.
this free webinar for people that can't afford to spend money on your services. So, Clint, tell us, what are the great frameworks?
Yeah, and again, this applies to anybody using our software, not using our software. You're just, looking to do a website redesign or website update, not even a redesign, but just an update, or you're planning on running those ads. I think these frameworks you really can't go wrong. But before we get into the frameworks, we have to figure out who are your ideal families. I think that is the number one question, and then based upon that we can start building frameworks around these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through an exercise. We'll go through it together, and then maybe we'll use a little bit of AI to help us along. Remember when I first started doing these types of presentations, even the one that we're looking at was from years ago. There was no such thing as AI to guide us along. So the what we're going through the exercises took a lot longer. But once you have the foundations, we can plug that right into our favorite AI platform and have it build it for us, which is nice, which really gets us about 95% of the way done. Um, but yeah, let's talk about step one, which is identifying family personas. Who are those groups of families that are the right fit that you're looking to attract? One of them, for those that are have let's say Montessori schools, one of those families is they're looking for a Montessori education, right? So there's that element, and there's that persona. They're looking for a Montessori education. Why choose your Montessori school, right? So we'll talk about that. But then there's other types of personas of families. The families that are maybe coming from the big public school and looking for a smaller sort of classroom. The families that they're looking for, they're trying to decide between public and private, what's best for me. So let me just ask real quick, has anybody done this exercise where you've gone through and identified those family personas based upon maybe what they're looking for, or, and I'm going to say what they're looking for or what they're looking to escape? And I'll talk about that here in more detail shortly. But has anybody done this persona work? So and if you're not familiar with it, that's fine.
No, not persona specifically. We more so look at like the student profile that we're looking for.
Trying to find out.
And so when you're doing that, what kind of information are you gathering? What if you give an example of, what kind of student?
So we're looking for students that may have diagnosed learning differences. So whether it's ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, students
Sure.
that may be high functioning autistic. We look at those types of criteria to see if they're looking for more support than what they're getting in the environment that they're currently in.
Okay. And that's a persona, right? So that's a persona, right? And then you're going to build all your messaging around that, and we'll talk about how to do that.
Lauren, let me ask Lauren a question. I know that your school is dealing with a population of exceptional children. Is there any kind of family who fits that criteria? They've got a child who fits your profile, who would not do well in your school or would cause you heartburn?
Yeah, it's those that have more behaviors that come along with their diagnosis or their challenges in school, where they could be doing elopement or verbally aggressive or maybe even physically aggressive. Those are the things that don't fit in our environment that could correlate with those learning challenges.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about family themselves, the parents? What kind of parent would not be a good fit?
Really, it's parents that are looking for a quick fix. That's not a good fix. Our goal is to work together in a partnership to move students forward. So we have to look at holistically those that are getting the support that their students need outside, maybe therapists or a psychiatrist to really help manage medication if that's what they're working with. That helps. So families that might be averse to those things may not fit into our environment.
Lisa, you run a smaller Montessori school of under 100 children. Do you find that most of the families that approach you want Montessori or even know what it is?
Most of the families that come to us most of them know what Montessori is, at least generally. Most of them want a unique and individualized approach to education that focuses on the human and the whole child. And then the older ones who come without Montessori experience or even with are looking for an elementary school that sees and honors the child, whether they are diagnosed, not diagnosed, just looking for some place that they can thrive in their areas of strength while still working on the rest of the areas and not feeling singled out. Those are the families that usually come.
Do I call you guys or call Central?
Okay. Clint, I see you've got a new slide up on the screen, target families.
Yeah, so as we're talking about that, and these are just purely examples. You have your own target families of what you just described. So what most schools have are probably 2 or 3 different types of families. They're not all just going to be in one bucket, right? You're going to have 2 or 3 different types of families, maybe more, that find your school to be the right fit and those families that you're looking to attract. And for our purposes today, as we're building messaging, let's start with one of those. Who are those families? And they'll base everything around that. And but then you can do the same thing for the other 2 or 3, and then we'll if we have time, show you how to run ads when identifying these this core messaging. Because one of the things I just want to say, and this is probably a side note, because this question has been coming up a lot when it comes to running ads, where I get a lot of questions around, well, how do we target these families with our ads or those families? And our mind first goes to, well, how do I target them? Right? If anybody has any experience with going into Facebook ads and you can choose the audience you want to target, your first, many times your first reaction might be, well, how do I target those families? And that's kind of the old way of doing it, which is trying to find those interest targeting or demographic targeting. The new way to target your ideal families is to be crystal clear in your messaging in the ad, right? Even from something as simple as, hey, families looking for a middle school or a high school. With AI now and the algorithms and Facebook, even with Facebook has even came out this year and said, essentially, don't worry about targeting. We'll find your families. You worry about the messaging. So that's why this is so critically important, is that once you identify who your families are, you put that messaging in there. That's actually how to better run your ads even better and target those families even better. So yeah, think about it. Who are you looking for? You know, I've talked with schools where it's like, I mean, all of our families are entrepreneurs and they're looking for a curriculum that supports that. Okay. You know, hey, families, are you looking, you know, to get your student involved in entrepreneurial opportunities or something along those lines? College prep it remains a big one, right? The families that are looking for the school that's going to prepare their child for a high school that accordingly, or prepare their child for a high school or prepare them for a college. I've talked with a lot of schools that go up to 8th grade, and the number one thing why sometimes they even lose students is the potential a perception that, hey, there's another school that's going to better prepare my child for a high school, for getting the high school that they want to get to. So that's important. Safety, community. Hey, we're looking for a great community, a safe community, uh, a close knit community. I see that a lot with schools where they're surrounded by a lot of public schools, and they're really trying to differentiate. So thinking about who is our target family, let's start there. So you have probably yours. You know, I would say pick one and let's go with it. If we have some time, maybe we'll go through some actual examples. So think about who are your ideal families, and then what do they want? And by what do they want, again, I mean there are things that they're looking for, right? But there's also things that they're looking to avoid or get away from. Maybe they're at another school, a bigger school, where their child is just not, they're not blending in, or maybe they are just kind of blending in, or they're not um, having the experience that they want. They're bored, they're unhappy, whatever it is, right? So that's something where, and I'll just throw this out there from a messaging standpoint, the more vividly you can describe the experiences and challenges that somebody is going through, and the more you can kind of get them to nod their head, be like, yeah, that's what I'm experiencing, the more likely they are to believe that you have the solution for them because you're empathizing, and empathy is such a big um, part of messaging. But moving towards or moving away from. So, for example, wants and aspirations, right? What do they want for themselves? What do they want for their child? Who does their child aspire to be? Is it an entrepreneur, right? What goals do they have? What are their values? So these are things that they're looking for. I work with a school, and a big part of their messaging has centered around inclusivity, right? So that's a key value that they hold dear, and they've put that in all of their messaging. But then there's the fears, the frustrations. What's keeping them up at night, right? Are you tired of seeing your child come home upset from school every single day, right? Think about if you wrote that as your first line of an ad, and a family reads that, and that's their experience. That's going to catch their attention, right? Now, again, that's not your only persona. Your entire persona isn't just the family who's upset with their current school, but that is a potential persona. What's standing in their way of success or happiness? Again, I work with a school who they work with gifted students, right? So they talk a lot about, is your child arbitrarily being held down by traditional grade levels, right? Again, features or lack of features do they regularly complain about, or are they trying to avoid? An example I've used a lot before, which again is addressing an objection, which is the school that goes up to 8th grade, you're competing with the school that goes up to 12th grade. And you're hearing from families, well, why should I choose the school that goes to 8th grade and I've got to do the application process again for high school when I could just go to high school and kindergarten, or I could do that school in kindergarten or preschool and I'm there the entire time, right? So these are things that their fears or frustrations or questions that they might have. So again, a good exercise to go through, and I'll summarize this here in a second, but as you think about this, and maybe you haven't done this, but if there's anything that jumps to mind in terms of things that parents are looking to avoid, anybody want to volunteer anything they've ever heard of parents are frustrated with something, you find a lot of parents are switching schools to come to your school for a particular reason, or they're looking to get away from something that's at another school down the street potentially? Anything come to mind?
For us, they're looking to get away from unreasonable expectations and toward the flexibility of working with the child.
So are they coming from like bigger
They're coming-
classrooms?
Some are coming from other Montessori schools that are a little more rigid in terms of following the child, in terms of not following the child and following the adult expectations. And then some are coming from more traditional, where they're rigid in terms of laying out what is going to be done, how it's going to be done, when and where it's going to be done, without much flexibility.
And what's
Just
your
be
messaging to
flexible.
them? If I was a parent and I was coming to you and I was saying that, what would you say to them? What would you say to me?
I let them know that the beauty of Montessori is we can serve the child in every facet of their growth, starting at where they are and progressing forward at their own pace.
Nice. Anybody else, or as we look at the screen, anything jump out in terms of what families want, what they're looking for, or maybe common objections or frustrations or things that you hear from parents that they're trying to get away from that you can potentially use in your messaging?
I think the biggest frustration when looking at private education is always cost and trying to really convey the value. For us, we are different than traditional private schools. We seek to transition students out when they are ready. So while we are K-12 and have the option that students can stay as long as they want, parents are looking for, like, in essence, in some ways, a quicker fix to get what they need. So the fear is my student might have to stay there forever, and this cost is significant. How can I make this work? Where some families just get it and know the sacrifice that they're willing to make. It's hard to find that just right messaging to convey the value.
I think that's great. That's a really good one, because if you know that that's a concern or a fear, man, I could see writing. As you say that, I'm like already kind of writing ads and writing messaging in my head, where it's like, are you looking for this without that, right? Are you looking to be able to support your child without the fear that, like, hey, they're at our school for the next 10 years, 12 years. Like, no, we can actually, our goal is for them not to be here that long. Maybe I'm not sure if that's a goal or not, but if that's what parents want to hear, again, that kind of goes back to, if you can address that fear right up front, they're going to believe, like, hey, okay, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. So in thinking about what we're doing, we're thinking, okay, who's my target family? What are the things that they're looking for or looking to get away from, or potential fears that they have? And then we could talk about emotion. We'll come back to this. And then, yeah, so here's some examples. Arbitrarily stuck in a current grade, bored, not looking forward to school, unhappy. But we've already talked about some of those examples. And then we talk about the portrait of a graduate, which is thinking about, has anybody ever built their own portrait of a graduate or come up with those portrait of a graduate statements?
It's a
So,
really great exercise if you haven't done that.
yeah.
Because what you really, every parent is trying to visualize, number one, if I enroll my kid in your school, how is my kid's life going to be better? And usually they're looking for happiness, and they're looking for teachers that keep them in the loop, and no surprises. No one wants a situation where all of a sudden the kid is kicked out of school because he's been naughty or something like that. They want to feel like they got a partner in the school. The other thing is, the concept of, he's 18 years old, he's graduating from high school. What's this kid like today? That visualization of what kind of kid are we trying to produce? And the implication is if you choose to apply to us and if we choose each other, this is what you can reasonably hope your kid will be like, or what kind of experiences your child will have.
Yep. Yes, this is a really great exercise, which is, typically 3, 4, 5 action-oriented phrases that will describe how they're going to face challenges and encounter in the outside world, or encounter and getting prepared for high school, getting prepared for college, getting prepared for life beyond college, right? Um, and this plays an important point because if you start piecing this all together, we're saying, hey, ideal family, we understand you have this fear or you're looking for this type of education. When families come here, their students are able to achieve X, Y, and Z. That's your portrait of a graduate, right? So we're starting to paint this picture, or the marketing phrase is called future pacing. You're painting a picture of a better future by choosing you. And then once you've started to do that, it's how do you get them there? And this is your X factors, right? So, hey, family is looking for, a Montessori school or a school to support an exceptional child. We understand you're looking for X, Y, and Z, or you're frustrated by this. Here's what life is like when you graduate from our school, and here's how we do it, right? So this is where we get into the how, right? So, and you know what I like to do?
Hey, Clint,
Here's
before you go to the next step, let me ask you a question.
yeah,
You're in business, you're a marketing guy, right?
yeah.
Okay. So I don't care if you're selling cars or Learjets or computers. Most of these companies go to an advertising agency, a marketing agency, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of what they're looking for is not only a really slick video ad or whatever, they're looking for some national spokesperson like Miley Cyrus going to endorse Lauren's school.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that would be the ideal, wouldn't it, Lauren? If you had a graduate who's world famous who would say, I went to Lauren's school and it changed my life and I owe everything to that school. We all want a celebrity endorsement or something like that. My question to you, Clint, is this, and I guess I'm going to ask my colleagues. I always found it hard to do it for myself. It was always easy to do it for Lisa. Lauren, I don't really know you, but I bet you I could do a lot for your school to put it on the map. It's so easy to do it for someone else. It is so hard to do it for yourself. Is that normally true?
In terms of, and I'm drawing this person for a reason on the screen. Is it
Love to leave
normal?
them
I'm just doodling while we're talking. But this is really where I'm taking things to the next level here with drawing and marketing. But are you saying is it easier for somebody else to kind of come in and help with that messaging?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is this. The typical business spends between 10 and 33% of every dollar that comes in on advertising and marketing. And I think that a lot of us who are in the business of actually delivering a service, which is what we all do, we love our business, we love our school. We know what about it we love, and we think we know what the parents love. But when your Apple computer, when you're whatever it is, if you're out there trying to create a message, people go to Madison Avenue and they're not only expecting
Sure.
a glossy ad, they're looking for a messaging that has real punch. And it always seemed to me that's the secret sauce in marketing. It's not just going through the motions of running ads and saying to the company, this is what it's going to cost you, pay the bill, give me your credit card. Is that not really what you're providing?
Yeah, and to that end, I think this is one of the big aha or eye-opening moments is when we go through this because many times when we do this exercise, it's like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. Or, it's the old getting a second pair of eyes on it, because you live and breathe your school. You look at your website every single day. It's like me. I look at my website every day. Somebody will tell me like, oh, there's a typo on that page or this, and I'm like, I've looked at this page a million times and I have never seen that, because we look at it all day, and there's almost like fatigue with it, or we get complacent, if that's the right word. um but just it's always getting a fresh set of eyes from a third party to take a look and build that messaging. I think that's why there's such a premium on bringing somebody in to do everything from branding. I mean, branding in itself I mean, I know branding agencies even for schools that are charging six figures, which is crazy to me. But you get branding agencies, you get, you talk about copywriting, which is what we're talking about today, in messaging. It's so important, and it is good to kind of bring people in, even if it's other members of the school, but then bringing in, like bringing in yourself, Tim, to like, hey, let's lead or facilitate this exercise. So, and speaking of exercise, here we go. Here's our person. I did this for a reason, right? This is great, And then, all right, this is actually a good exercise to do visually. Here's what I mean. Why I have this. Here's the family here. They're unhappy about something. They're looking for a school, and it's not that they're unhappy while looking for a school, but they hope they're making the right decision. They maybe they're unhappy, their child's unhappy, which makes the parent unhappy. They don't like to see their child unhappy, bored, frustrated, upset coming home from school. It's obviously not the right fit. But then you also, even if this is their first school they're ever choosing, they're also probably choosing between 3, 4, 5 schools, and like they don't want to make a mistake. It can be an expensive mistake. And so they don't want to do that. So this is where underneath I start putting all those things of, here's your persona of family you want to target. So what are they looking for? So here's your family that's, looking for, they're looking for the right fit school, right? They're looking for a school that, what do we want to say? They're looking for a school that provides, X opportunities, right? Whatever the opportunity is. So your school, what are they looking for? And we've already said a few, right? So this is what they're looking for. I know this might be a little light. Let's make that bold, right? So they're searching for a school. They're unhappy. They might be unhappy, or they're just concerned. Let's flip over here. This is our portrait of a graduate now. So this is, they're done at your school. Who are they going to become? Right? They're going to become leaders. They're going to be able to get into the best high school, the best colleges, right? That is still very important for families, as much as we don't sometimes want to talk about it. From a lot of surveys, 70% of families switch schools because they're looking for better academic opportunities that are going to prepare them for the next step, whatever the next step is. So who are they going to become? And then this is where we draw our line. Oops, remove the body. Hold on. Just line. Here we go. And then this is how we do it, right? So these are your X
They're
factors,
unhappy and they become happy.
right? So then these are your X factors that's building the bridge. So this is really tying everything together. You're building a bridge, which is, we understand what you're looking for. We understand, you want to find the right fit school. We understand your child is happy. When you come to our school, they are going to graduate. They're going to become leaders. They're going to be prepared for the world. They're going to get into the best schools, whatever that portrait of a graduate is for yours. And then here's how we do it, right? We have multi-age classrooms. We have, 4-to-1. I wouldn't even say the whole teacher to student ratio. That's, everybody talks about low student to teacher ratios. But think about those top 3 reasons why families love you. And by the way, this is why on most landing pages that we have, or that we build for schools, it's going to have a section which is, are we right for you? Look at this. Is your gifted child feeling frustrated in their current school? Does your child thrive in learning, is hands-on? Are you looking for a school that goes beyond academics, right? So that's calling out those families and what they're looking for. And then here's why families love us, right? We're a school for gifted. We're committed to social justice. So that's a very big value, as it's a part of their mission statement. Student teacher relationships and rigorous intellectual exploration, right? So what does all that mean? So these become these 4 ways that we get you to become the Portrait of a Graduate. Okay. I have no idea if that visualization is helpful for anybody, but I like going through it. And because I am mentally taking somebody and building that bridge from where they are now to a better future when they're done at your school.
Clay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Parent, Lisa, you're sending your daughter to GW University, right? You got to be spending a fortune on it, right?
Yes,
Okay. 40, 50, $60,000 before scholarships.
yes, definitely.
I was gonna say it might be more than that these
Yeah.
days.
For
So
scholarship, it's bank.
would you say that you are an altruistic person?
Yes,
Okay. Is there any selfishness in this decision to send your daughter there?
it was her choice.
And yet you went along with it. You didn't just say.
I
"Hey,
did.
trouble."
I did. It's a good match for her. I think there were other good matches for her, but
Uh-huh.
she felt like this was a good match for her, and it was her choice to make. And it was a great school. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
great school and a great fit.
What I'm trying to tease out for Lauren, for you, and for everyone else that's listening to this thing, and you too, Clint, you've got 3 kids, right? Do
Yeah.
they any of them go to private school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So here we are. We are all people either are currently or did in the past, like I did. Right now, I'm supporting my grandkids through school. Tune of 20, 30, $40,000 contribution, and they're not even my own individual kids. I love them. So the point I'm trying to get at is what is a parent getting out of this? And I
Yeah.
think that the secret of framing the right messaging in part is figuring out what motivates the kind of parent that's likely to think that your school, whether it's a school like Lauren's, which is not only located in a specific community, but is serving a specific function, which is very, very specialized, Lauren, and it's very special. And in your case, Lisa, as a Montessori school, in a way, you could say our schools are commodities, right? One Montessori school is like every other. And yet you and I both know it's not true. So why would someone choose it? And what are they getting at it? Why would they spend all this money to do it? And it's clearly it's psychological. It's in the heart. This is really an irrational decision. Because the rational decision is to send your kid to public school with all the other kids, because I'm sure, Lauren, you hear this every day. Well, I could go to your school, but my local public school is very, very affluent, and they've got all the resources in the world to meet my child's needs. So if they're coming to you, they clearly concluded that wasn't true. But there's something that they're looking for.
True. I think one of the things, especially as a parent, that I'm looking for, and I had this experience with my son, which you've heard the background on it, where we walked away from a private school. And what I'm looking for as a parent, and honestly, what I'm looking to provide any parent who is a match for our school, is to make sure the child has the opportunity to leave here with all the tools they can to make the decisions they want to make, to follow the path that fits them. And that's how my kids chose their colleges and how I looked at their schools. Are these schools going to give them the opportunity to have the information they're going to need, the ability to learn what they need to learn in addition to that, and the tools to do it.
One of the things I remember learning from ISM years ago is who's making the decision. So when a kid is 4, it's pretty much the parents. And to a large extent, up until a certain age, it's still the parent. But on the other hand, it gets to another point, and the parent has part of it. And as you said with your daughter, she chose what she thought was right for her. And you weren't going to say to her, too bad, so sad, you're going where I tell you to go. The bottom line is, I think we as the parent or grandparent, we're getting some out of this. It is an innately psychological, emotional, neurological response. Something happens in our bodies that we feel good when our kid's happy or when we feel like we made the right choice. And part of it is what the kid experiences. Part of it is what we experience, because no parent wants to go to a school and feel creepy. You know, no family of color wants to go to a school where they feel like they're a token, or there's no people in that school like me. Jewish kids don't want to feel like they're, token. People of color don't want that. They want to feel like these people see me, they like my kid. I feel like I belong here. I see
Yeah.
you've drawn the age chart. Back to
Yeah,
you,
and
Clint.
on this, well, yeah, as I'm drawing here, because you referenced who makes a decision. So the y-axis here is decision making influence. Um, and if I have this right, essentially what this is saying is pretty much up until middle school, and this is by getting younger and younger. So I would say like age 11 was that sixth grade, right? Once you start getting into middle school, the decision is largely coming to the child. So by the time you get to high school, it's a child's decision for the most part. You might have a little bit, but it's like where are your friends going, things like that. So to that end, that was the graph that we always utilized, which is who is making the decision and who are we messaging for. So there's actually something to that. And one other thing, real quick, I wanted to leave you all with, which is, how do we take this information and then put it into a messaging framework? And here's where AI can assist us. So, Lauren, let's just use one of your examples real quick of your ideal family persona. We started with you where we said, okay, just blurt out what was one of your families that you're looking to target? What are they looking for again?
For additional support in helping their child close academic gaps.
Help child close academic gaps. Okay. What are they able to do when they leave your school?
Be independent and self-advocating for what works right for their learning needs. Being able to get into a college. Finding the right career.
Mhm.
Remember your school name real quick?
Eton Academy.
Eton Academy.
ETON.
This up here. This is going to help with our AI. How do you do it? Give me 3 of the things that are the best about the school, what families love, how you get them to become independent and self-advocating and get into college and find the right career. What are the 3 big things if you had to boil it down to 3?
Class sizes no larger than 10 students. Curriculum that meets students where they are academically, not based on grade level. And I don't know how to boil so we have a curriculum called Essentials of Learning that is a daily class that teaches them life skills and learning strategies. Life skills, learning strategies, self-advocacy strategies.
Say self-learning,
Self-advocacy.
self-advocacy. Reading
Helping
and
kids
typing.
learn how to learn and learn the strategies of using their personality and their best learning style to
Yep.
be able to succeed instead of feeling like a failure.
Yep.
Okay, this is great, and we could probably go in a lot more depth, but for our purposes, let's now use the frameworks. There are 2 frameworks that I would love for you to write down, memorize. You can always Google them, but if you do this with AI knows what they are because they're very popular copywriting frameworks. Has anybody heard of so these are copywriting frameworks. Has anybody heard of problem, agitate, solution? Ever heard of that?
Nope.
Okay, so that's one. And then there's another one, and so this is also called PAS. And then there's attention, interest, desire, action. I almost forgot that for a second. It's ADA. Okay, these are 2 copywriting frameworks. So this is the one I will say that usually produces really bold copy and sometimes makes schools a little bit uncomfortable. However, because they're not used to it, especially when it comes to advertising or putting it on their website. However, I have seen this typically work the best when it comes to ad copy. When we can look at engagement rates and things like that. But these are both really good. And again, I'll use the example if I were to run an ad. I typically write 4 ad variations, 2 with PAS, 2 with ADA, and see which one works. So let's do this. Let's use some AI, and that'll help us do this very quickly. So I need your help to write Facebook ads for Eaton Academy. And Eaton Academy. So now we say who, and even though that probably knows who Eaton Academy is, but it's good to put in here. So I just took your here. And let's just put in what we wrote. So ideal family personas, additional support to help child close academic gaps. We put in the portrait of a graduate. We put our X factors in there. All right, so it's good to separate these. So these are X factors. Portrait of a graduate. And let's say our call to action is to book a tour. Okay. So this is where I would say using the problem, agitate, solution framework, please write 2 Facebook ad copy variations that will resonate with my ideal families. See what it produces. So there you go. So you're calling out the common challenges that they might be facing. You're agitating those problems, and you're producing the solution. Sometimes when I share this with the school, they're like, "Ooh, like that's pretty bold and out there," but it works really well. Lauren, at first glance, do you think this hits the mark or no? Do you think it's off?
I think it actually does. It says a lot of the things that we talk about a little bit with like daily life skills. It's hard to say that because when people Google us, they'll often see special needs school, which is not necessarily us. So then when they see life skills, they correlate it to like cleaning, cooking, those types of things. But like lifelong learning, I would just change like small things.
Right. So yes, you would come through here like, okay, yeah, let's change this up a little bit. Makes sense.
Clint,
Yes.
as a parent who's got one child who would fit really well at this school, unfortunately, he's 12th grade. At any rate, I think this is an excellent ad.
Yeah.
Parent perspective, and I would change daily life skills because that can be interpreted, and I am coming at it from education. but I really like it, I have to say.
Oh, I love that.
And I've got your school on my other open device. I like that too.
And look, this is also probably my fault because I put in here teaches life skills, right? So it took the
Mm.
word life skills, I put that in there, and so that's why I use that. So you would probably do a much better job providing that initial background information. That's the most important thing. It's providing really good background information. But then when you give it the framework, I would say AI does a really nice job of giving that framework. So I would take this as an ad and obviously get rid of the the headlines and just really just copy and paste that and fix that up. Let's see what the other one says. Is your child smart but struggling to keep up in class? Maybe need more time or support. Yeah, so this is really targeting the crowded classroom persona.
Yes, that one's, yeah, I love it.
Cool. So what you can do is great. So that's a little bit more bold. It's calling out the challenges that certain families might be facing. They're saying, great. Now I would like to more add variations using the AIDA copywriting framework, and it knows what that is. So let's see how well that does. So it's more like inspirational, aspirational.
That's great.
Let's see the other one.
Yup. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's scary. I like that.
Yeah, so it's not bad. You know, it gets you maybe 90% of the way there, 95% of the way there. And taking this to another level, the other thing that many schools will say is, well, I really want to target more middle school families or more elementary school families, whatever that is. Do you know how you do that? You simply say in the beginning, are you looking for a middle school that? Or, hey, families looking for a middle school, looking for a high school. I did that with a school. We didn't change anything else in the targeting of the ad. We checked off AI targeting. The only thing we changed was the call out. Families looking for middle school and high school. And you know, these algorithms, they do the thing. So I highlight that because your job is just produce the creative that will resonate with your ideal families. From something as simple as calling out, hey, families looking for preschools, daycare. No, not daycares, but like, hey, we're not just a daycare, right? That's a very common language that we use for looking for schools for toddlers. You know, looking for kindergarten. Call out those families. Now, obviously, you might then change out the messaging that would resonate with a kindergarten family versus a middle school family. That's obvious. But you still do the same thing. If I'm a family looking for a kindergarten, what are my core desires? What am I looking for? What am I not looking for? Right? You could say, hey, even from this calling out the decision, we understand that choosing that first school for your child is the most difficult, but also can be the most important. So acknowledging that we understand you're probably looking at 3, 4, 5 different schools. Here's why families choose us. They're looking for this, this, and this, and here's how we do it. So we can keep coming back to this framework, and all you have to do is just change some of these inputs. Who's the persona? What are they looking for? What are they going to be able to do when they leave our school? And how do we do it? So if you just do that and then insert them into these frameworks, then you have a really great ad. I'm going to leave you with one more thing, especially if you're going to apply this. So this applies really great to ads. It still works for your website, but one other website framework I really like is called StoryBrand. Something I've talked a lot about. That's by Donald Miller. He wrote a book on it. Wrote 2 books now using AI. I mean, this is not what I would normally do. And it's like, great. Now, help me craft a homepage of my website using the StoryBrand framework. And without getting into the weeds of the StoryBrand framework, it is like a 7-step framework of how to psychologically kind of tell the story of the hero of your story, which is your parent. So here you go, the character. They have a problem. They meet a guide, you the school, you have a plan for them, your call to action, right? So now this just wrote out an entire web page using a really great proven framework of telling the story that's going to be attractive to your ideal family. So the beauty of AI. If we didn't have AI, we'd be spending 2 hours, doing a workshop, which I've done before. We spent 2 hours doing a workshop writing this all out. Now, if you just know those frameworks, you can change the inputs.
Love this.
Are you in her?
It is
All
so
right. Well, I know we're past the hour, but
Yeah, AI has made it so much easier. And I find with my use of AI, I really have to keep coaching and training it. And it's still tricky to come up with the right thing. I think what's probably in general true is Lauren, there are people in your world who don't work for the school who could help you figure out fantastic messaging and a lot of times charretting, which is similar to what you do in architecture, can help people to come up with great marketing messages. And you just hone in on it and then figure out how to turn it into a video or a testimonial or a radio ad or a still ad or a Google ad is what it takes to make the phone ring.
well, all right, everybody.
This is
Well,
great.
yeah, thanks for hopping on. Any last questions before we wrap up for today?
No, this is great. I'm glad I could finally join.
Cool.
This
Thanks
was
for joining us.
excellent.
We are too, Lauren. Thanks for coming. Good to see you, Lisa. Good to see you, Lauren.
Good to see you both.
Thanks. Nice seeing you.
And nice to
All
meet you.
right.
You too.
We will see you all next week. Clint, I know one thing we better do sometime around this time of year is help people with thinking about their budget and setting their tuition. That's one of the big issues with marketing.
That's a great point. Yeah, let's put that on the
Maybe I can
topic
get my
list.
son Mark to come on, let's have him do a whole argument, or he's brilliant on talking about setting your tuition strategically.
That sounds great.
That'd be great.
All right, everyone, have a great week and
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
bye.
Take care, everybody.